In 1832, the phenakistoscope was invented by Joseph Plateau, which for the first time showed continuous movement of a cartoon. The next year, in 1833, George Horner invented the zoetrope, which is not only much easier to pronounce, but it showed the viewer one image, no image, and then a second different image in quick succession, producing the illusion of movement. In 1872, Edward Muybridge photographed sequences of movement from humans and animals to give us the first understanding of motion of living things. In 1908, Emile Cole created the first 2D animation ever titled Phantasmagory, made up of 700 total drawings lasting about 1 minute and 45 seconds. Max Fleischer released the first animation with sound in 1926, which aged incredibly. And 2 years later, Walt Disney created Steamboat Willie, an 8-minute animation which gave us the first look at the most recognizable character in history, Mickey Mouse. Now you're probably wondering why I'm telling you all of this. Well, because I have a word count to meet and it's an easy way to start a video essay. And also, because understanding where we've been is a good way to understand where we are and may help you understand where we might be in the future. Because cartoons have been with us for a very long time. For millennials, it was Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls. For our parents, it was Snorks and Smurfs. And for their parents, it was, well, Walt Disney and Max Fleischer. But the thing for them was that everything was for kids and nothing more. Sure, you had your occasional Big Bird talks about divorce, but at the end of the day, it was still just Sesame Street. Every generation has their cartoons, the ones they watched as children, and when they grow up, they look back on for fond memories and nostalgia. However, for us, we had something more. Something special. Something that had revived the art of 2D animation. We had 2 shows that broke rules that had canceled others in the past. 2 shows that were hilarious, outrageous, and at times really inappropriate for their demographics. 2 shows that not only knew when to have fun, but knew exactly when to get serious and tackle something more important. 2 shows that were born when we were innocent, lived as we aged and grew older, and retired when we were ready to start our own stories. We had Adventure Time and Regular Show.
It's pretty crazy for all of us to have been here for that long to actually make it to 100 episodes.
I can't believe we're there. Oh my god. And I'm up to 100.
Power of friendship is like I think just the main theme of the whole series.
Very well. You did very well. You held your own. That was awesome.
It's all right. I think our park is certainly a lot better.
Just had the best time, darling. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Polly. Jake's voice is like my voice with a hug around it.
Adventure Time was created by Pendleton Ward and is about Finn and his magic dog brother Jake that went on quests throughout the land of Ooo, sometimes saving princesses kidnapped by the Ice King or just going around murdering things for the fun of it. Regular Show, created by J.G. Quintel, was a show about a bird and a rat who work at a park and crazy shit happens sometimes because that's life. Adventure Time and Regular Show were both released months apart from each other, Adventure Time in April and Regular Show in September of 2010. Both released to critical acclaim and both having millions of people tuning in each week. By the end of the show's lifespans, they both had well over 200 episodes each, with Regular Show having a more typical cartoon way of storytelling, with each episode being separated from the last, contrasted with Adventure Time's similar yet far more connected story, characters, and world. Both shows were titans. No, not that shit. Get that shit out of my face. That shit in the garbage. There we go. Yet Regular Show had a more digestible format and cast of characters, which I believe is why it was more popular among a modicum of other reasons.
To line up, and when the balls drop, when the game starts.
Both shows had everything you wanted. Romance, comedy, action, a lively world and setting, as well as things I've mentioned prior to make up something super special. There was truly nothing better at the time, and even nowadays with streaming services being able to pump out high quality, well, everything, in a relatively short amount of time, it's hard not to see something come to the same level as these 2 masterpieces. Not to say that streaming services don't pump out bangers, just that they never get to the same level as these 2. One thing that separated Regular Show and Adventure Time from the rest, excluding The Amazing World of Gumball, was the fact that they were funny, and not that stupid slapstick shit you got in Looney Tunes or the grotesque bodily fluids meta you saw in practically every show right before these 2. They had jokes, and not to say that either of these shows didn't try to gross you out at times or didn't use the fact that someone threw up to make you laugh, but they did it with a sophistication. that bare minimum made you chuckle every single time. They knew who was watching or who would be watching, and knew how to make you laugh no matter who you were. They never strayed away from anything as simple as a fart to as complicated as quantum grilled cheese mechanics to tell an awesome joke. Just check this clip out.
Skeletons, you've got to be really, really quiet. Jake,
I thought it would be funny.
I mean, come on, that's hilarious. They were both very adaptive shows and knew their audiences extremely well. Every season of the show meant adding another year or two to the demographic, so it meant always evolving in some way or another without ever losing what made the shows popular in the first place, which is really hard to do. The first few seasons reference video games, and then later seasons talk about relationships and how those can be really hard, or let's talk about having a job and how that sucks, but can also be really fun. Regular Show in practically all of its seasons had random park shit like usual, but with enough depth and exploration to never have it go stale. They had a really lovable and predictable format that everyone came accustomed to. And then out of nowhere they said, fuck it, fuck the format. Let's put them under a dome for a season and just see if it works. And it did. So, coming to the logical conclusion, they said, let's put that shit in space. And it still fucking worked. They even cursed one time. I mean, Angry Beavers got canceled for saying shut up, but Regular Show just did a quick edit and they were chilling? Like, how do you even do that? Looking back in hindsight, it's not like it's that much of a change from the usual, but it's enough to warrant some real changes to the show and the dynamics with and between the characters and their stories that they didn't need to do, but did anyway for the sake of healthy development and evolving, which is extremely ballsy, but because they were geniuses, it not only worked, but set up for their inevitable finale that felt authentic and natural in every way. In the first season of Adventure Time, it's all about the weird scenarios that Finn and Jake find themselves in. However, later in the show, there's almost none of that because it focuses on the show's world, at times more than its main characters, and uses fewer episodes with higher quality to develop them and improve them further than any other cartoon I've ever seen. The amount of lore, Easter eggs, and characters never forgotten, or forgotten until the last episode, is astonishing. The secret snail, kingdoms and their princesses, Peanut Duke, the squirrel that hates Jake for no fucking reason, Lumpy Space, the Nightosphere, the gender bend thing with Fiona and Cake, and all the shit in the background, and I could go on and on and on with this show's incredible world that Pendleton Ward and his team created. You see, Adventure Time for me felt like when you play Breath of the Wild for the first time. It had enough wonder and mystery to never bore or tire you, because of its eventual answering of questions you develop over the course of you playing it and its level of detail to every frame. A true love for adventure and discovery, easy to follow because it was made so perfectly with a love from its creators. Both shows never stopped being authentic. Being funny is good and entertaining, but not every show can be SpongeBob because as big as SpongeBob is, the only thing you remember were from the first 3 seasons and it failed to ask an important question. What happens when the kids grow up? SpongeBob runs the internet with the memes, but that's all SpongeBob is, a giant meme. And if you want to make something that resonates with people, then there needs to be more substance and maturity. I understand that SpongeBob never meant to be more than a meme, but SpongeBob was never meant to last this long either, because that's the nature of the comedic medium. There's nothing wrong with being just funny, but funny isn't going to leave a lasting impression on you. Both shows told human stories. The stories they told were not just some fight with the power of friendship and we can do anything type garbage. The stories they told were real, at times so universal that you would be remiss to say it didn't make you feel anything. Stories of abandonment, breakups, self-doubt, revenge, love, loss, you name it, and you can find something in both shows depicted in such a way that's beautiful and very absorbable. Because children and people in general don't want to be lectured to, they want to be taught. Taught about things from breakups to growing up and maturing as a person, while being told at the same time that life happens and it's still an absolute struggle filled with pain and suffering, but it's worth living for reasons they can't grasp yet. What many people making cartoons fail to recognize is that kids don't want to be kids. They want to be adults because of the freedom that comes with it, without knowing about the struggle and responsibility. They want a $20 toy or a $1,300 PC without knowing the work and time it takes to get the $20, let alone the $1,300. Kids are really stupid, but not that stupid. Their stupidity doesn't come from a low IQ, but rather from ignorance. Just because a child may not understand or can't relate to the full gravity of a serious situation doesn't mean they don't try their hardest to empathize or understand something they know to be wrong or more mature in nature. Discussing a more mature topic doesn't alienate your viewership. It ensures they'll be able to appreciate it even more when they're older, or talks about things they wouldn't be able to fully grasp if they were younger, ensuring the longevity of a show. With maturity oftentimes coming through the character development in shows, it can be an absolute challenge, and it's really hard to stay consistent, and even harder to do it for almost a decade, but they did, and they did it very flawlessly. Because it felt real and natural. Development in Steven Universe meant that the characters cried a lot for the 5th episode in a row. Like, why are you crying right now? Granite died? I don't give a shit. Or tell me why I should care. Don't just throw a flashback about how Basalt impacted you as a person for the 15th episode in a row and expect me to like your show because the music bumps crazy. The amount of time and thought put behind the scenes must have been... I don't even want to think about it. I most of the time can't come up with good things to write for my scripts, yet these people wrote entire casts, environments, and world, which never stopped being true to the vision they set for their greatest works. And the biggest thing going for them was the fact that they had love and passion, which they recognized resonated with people like me who fell in love with them both. Both shows lasted for a lot of seasons and never failed in giving us what we wanted, but like all good things, there has to be an end, which both of them understood very well. Both shows explored the constant theme I find most profound is one of death, or to be more specific, immortality. Over the course of both of their lifespans, we saw the ups and downs of the characters closest to us and ones we grew to love. We saw them at their lowest and at their highest, at their strongest and at their weakest. It gives you an understanding and appreciation for the characters you grew to love and you saw grow up with you. I remember watching the first episode of Adventure Time premiere when I was in 3rd grade, and I also remember watching both finales after graduation from high school. I remember Rigby with a family and the treehouse missing from a spot I grew to remember. We didn't just see these guys grow up. We didn't just see these guys grow as people and develop as characters. We saw them age. Cartoons very often fall into the tropes of the ageless main character that at the end of the day don't show anything more than something fun to watch sometimes. But with regular show and Adventure Time, we saw who they were and who they became, and that's something in the medium of cartoons we may never see again to the extent we saw with these two, but I always remember this quote when looking back. Don't be sad it ended, be happy it even happened at all. They grew up and developed with us, and when we were ready to start our own adventures, they let us know that we didn't need them anymore. Which isn't just a theme, it's a fundamental human archetype. If you stay with your parents, you'll be safe. But if you leave the nest, you'll be free. These shows, for many others like me, were my childhood. They came out and aired when I was in elementary school. I'm now a legal adult and I graduated 3 years ago. The memories of happiness, disgust, fear, etc., stuck with me. When making this video, I wanted to relive the good old days, and for brief moments, I did. I realized, however, that this video, at least for me, wasn't a way to relive my childhood. Rather, a way to say goodbye to it. My childhood was my childhood, and I can't get the simplicity and innocence of those years back. I will never have those again, but that doesn't mean that life stops being great when you get your first crush, or when you grow into puberty, or when you go into high school, or when you move out of your parents' house. The good old days aren't the good old days. They're just the easy ones, for most people at least. Life isn't the easiest thing, however, it's still worth living. Now that you're older, you can go wherever you want. You can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. You can do whoever you want, which is kind of cool. These shows were made, lived, and died during their time. They were, like everything else, products of their era. They were special in their own way, and so are we. These shows were awesome, but you and I can't keep looking to the past. We have to keep looking towards the future. Our past experiences, although anecdotal, are not trivial and are what make us who we are, but they shouldn't be the only things that do. We have lives to live and choices to make. How life turns out is up to you. Our childhood shouldn't be the end of the good old days. They should just be the beginning. There's still a lot I want and need to do, I'm not the person who can look in the mirror and be happy with the face and person that stares back, but I want to be. I need to be. Even though it's much more than it. Life sometimes feels like nothing but suffering, but the adversity and struggle makes you a stronger and better person. And Pendleton and JG made this life a little bit easier for us. And I hope they realize that. And for that, I say thank you. Thank you for the adventure, and thank you for the regular and mundane. Thank you for everything. And thank you for watching. God bless and good night.